Hello and welcome to the Online Educators Forum. I'm your host, Reverend Dr. Lindsay Andreolli-Comstock, and today we are in for a treat. I am being joined today by Reverend Dr. Angela Yarber. Angela, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, Angela, oh my gosh, identities. You are an author, an activist, an academic, an artist, a mother, a sister, a daughter, wow, and an online educator. You are so many things to so many people. Can you tell us, how is it that you came to have all these varying interests and identities?
That is a great question, and a question that I ask myself all the time, because sometimes life would be a little easier if I just picked one thing, but I love doing so many different things. And in my mind, they all are interconnected, that activism and the arts go hand in hand, that teaching and writing go hand in hand, and all of these kind of mutually inform one another. And so that's, for me, how I came to it.
I see. So if you had to, is there one of these identities that you feel most embodies who you are, or perhaps something that you like the most?
Well, I definitely like the art, like creating art and writing the most. But when I really think about the core of why I do those things, it comes down to teaching. Because I care so much about teaching about the stories of revolutionary women, which is the crux of what I do, particularly revolutionary women who come from marginalized and underrepresented identities. And that is what my writing is about. That's what my artwork features. It features these revolutionary women. And whenever I do activism, though I hope to be an activist in a variety of formats, intersectionally feminist in those ways, the heart of it really does come down to teaching about these stories. And so in that way, I would say teaching, but the way that I go about it, the method that I use is art and writing and activism, which is a little different than the pedagogy of many teachers out there.
Right. Wow. I love the way that you explain that. And I definitely can hear and sense and kind of feel the palpable intersectionality of all those identities for you, kind of how you work it out in your own space, in your own heart, in your own mind, the work that you do. I think that's really incredible. And I think for me, one of the ways that you articulate art in the world is through your writing. And you have a new book out in the world. I think it's your 8th book.
It is my 8th book, yeah.
Wow. And this one is a memoir. Tell us what Queering the American Dream is all about.
Sure. Well, and I do have my copy here. So we got the visual Queering the American Dream. So Queering the American Dream is my queer family who left it all and the revolutionary women who taught us how. Our story begins when the Supreme Court rules our marriage legal and ends the moment my younger brother's addiction spirals into a deadly overdose. And in between, we have 18 months of full-time travel with a toddler in tow as we traverse the American landscape. And at each stop along the way, there's a different revolutionary woman from history and myth who kind of guides our footsteps and teaches us what it means to reimagine, subvert, and overturn the American dream so that it's big enough, deep enough, expansive enough for all people, not just for the ones who kind of adhere to this meritocracy that we talk about in American culture. So it's both memoir, meeting the stories of these revolutionary women.
Wow. So you talked earlier about how these revolutionary women largely come from kind of these marginalized communities. And so in some respects, you're telling your own revolutionary story. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. And I never want to claim the title revolutionary for myself, but it's what I'm trying, that's what I'm aiming for, that's what I'm doing. And so these different women are kind of paving the way. They've paved the way for all of us. And so it's my way of saying thank you and showing gratitude for the work they have done, but also my attempt at following in their footsteps and doing some of the same work that they've done in the past.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Very humble approach. Angela, if there was one big learning that you hoped readers would walk away with from having read this latest book by you, what do you think it would be?
I think it would be that you don't have to live your life according to the scripts that have been handed to you, but that you can reimagine and live according to the dream that you have that's within your own heart, that you can dismantle together these dreams that don't work for everyone, that don't work for most people, that are systematically designed to exclude many. And so together, as we dismantle these, we can reimagine something that's bigger and better, where all people can flourish and thrive.
Wow. Wow. Thank you for that. Yeah. And I think if we all did walk away with that ideology and that kind of fervor from reading your book, how the world would be transformed for us to have that empowerment. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that. Yeah. So there's a rumor that this book might also become, I don't know, an online course, maybe a virtual retreat. Can you tell us how it is that you envision this book maybe becoming a training manual of sorts that online educators and learners can benefit from?
Absolutely. Well, I have done a pilot in-person retreat that ended up being all queer clergywomen, which I thought was fabulous. I think it's important to acknowledge the pedagogist, the womanist scholar and poet and writer who's has a quote that kind of the book hangs on, that I think the course would hang on to. And this is what she says, and it's about the word queer. She says, queer not as being about who you're having sex with, that can be a dimension of it, but queer as being about the self that is at odds with everything around it and has to invent and create and find a place to speak and to thrive and to live. And I think about so many of us all over the world, not just those of us living in America and abiding by this American dream, but I think about so many of us whose very selves and very beings are at odds with the world. And we have to create and invent ways to live and thrive and to speak, just like Bell Hooks talks about. And so my vision is to create a course or a retreat online where anyone who has felt at odds with the world around them can register and come and say, okay, how can we work together? And how can I work as an individual to create and invent a world where I can flourish and thrive? That it's not enough to abide by the scripts that have been handed to us, but to reimagine something better and bigger. And so that's kind of the overarching gestalt, if you will, of what the course would be about. I'm still working out the nuts and bolts of what that's going to look like, because we've had the in-person retreat. I have an art show that coincides with it, and that's kind of touring. So I've been doing those things, but figuring out how to bring the art and the retreat aspects and the writing and the book and all of it together in a way that can be synthesized into an online course so that people walk away not just with new knowledge, as you and I have talked about, which is important, but also with skills that are practical so that they can be living into this dream that they have for their lives here and now.
Wow. Wow. And the ways in which you've attempted to embody that in your own life and practice, and then sharing the things you've learned and the stumbles that you had. What a vulnerable and amazing way to invite people on a journey of self-discovery and kind of reclaiming self. I think when I think about the term Kairos Moment, timing, now is the time for something like this, a book like this, and an event like this. I think this probably resonates with so many people. When you were first writing the book, did you know that the timing would be such?
No, and I was just thinking that as you were naming it, that I started writing the book pre-pandemic, but now we're going through this great resignation where people all over the world, and we focus on this a lot in the United States, but all over the world are leaving their jobs and then not returning and questioning the status quo and questioning what we've called normal. And this is an opportunity, as Arundhati Roy articulated so beautifully at the very beginning of the pandemic, to go through what she called a portal into a new way of being. It's not simply just to return to what was, because what wasn't working. And we've seen that it wasn't working for everyone, but in particular for those who come from underrepresented identities, that it's not working for people of color, that it's not working for LGBTQ folks, that it's not working for women and mothers who are trying to raise their families and work at the same time. But it's my hope that together in a community, in this online kind of virtual classroom, in community, we can reimagine these ways of being, that we can create our portal that we're stepping through, as she said, and imagine a new normal for us.
Yeah. Well, she spoke of portal and you created a roadmap for us. So I love it. Thank you for doing what you did.
Oh, thank you. I love that way of putting it, a portal, and we created a roadmap. So maybe that's exactly what this course is the roadmap to get us through there. See, in community here, we're coming up with what it is.
That's right. That's right. That's wonderful. Angela, you also have other courses, shifting gears a bit, talking about other roadmaps and amazing opportunities that exist. As an online educator, you have 2 courses at the School of Global Citizenry. Can you tell us briefly what those are about for folks who are ready to dig in now?
Yeah, so those, I have 2 other courses that are online, on demand, and self-paced. So they're ones where you can do it whenever you want and come back to it whenever you want. One is called The Divine Feminine, Global Perspectives, and one is called Queer Spirituality, Global Perspectives. And the first, The Divine Feminine, is an opportunity to learn about the role of the feminine divine, the sacred feminine, the divine feminine, from a variety of perspectives from all over the world. So to look at glimpses of these different women from history and goddess figures or figures from mythology, and how they embody the essence of what it means to embody the feminine divine, if you will. And so that is one of them. And then the other one is Queer Spirituality. And it's similar in the sense that it looks at these different LGBTQ saints, queer women, most of whom are queer women of color from all around the world and from mythology, to really subvert what we think about when we think about spirituality and religion, because so often those religion and spirituality are used as exclusive tools to exclude LGBTQ folks. And so this is an opportunity to dig in and say, actually, embedded in every major world religion, there are opportunities for LGBTQ folks. And there are ways to subvert those traditions and ways to adhere to parts of the tradition that often go overlooked or ignored or strategically erased, so that we can elevate with pride and gratitude what the queer community adds to faith and spirituality.
That's wonderful. Angela, that's exciting to know that already exists for us to take advantage of now, and to know that more is coming. Folks, go to the School of Global Citizenry and get in on this while you can. But also important, I want folks to know how they can access your art, your retreats, all the work that you're doing, your books. Where should we go? What should we access to connect with you apart from the school?
Well, thank you for that. And it's all available through my nonprofit, which is called the Tehom Center, Tehom. It's a Hebrew word for deep or depth. Through the Tehom Center, which is funded entirely by our art sales and our book sales and the retreats that we lead, it all goes back into the nonprofit. It helps us in our mission of teaching about revolutionary women through art, writing, and special events. So if you're interested, you can go to our website, tehomcenter.org. That's Tehom center.org. And you can also find us on Facebook at Tehom Center, Instagram at Tehom Center, and Twitter at Tehom Center. At least for now, who knows what's happening next with Twitter in the world.
Right.
But you can find us on those social media platforms. You can also contact me through the website. And there you can order art, prints, books, see about what kind of retreats that we have coming up. We do have another Queering the American Dream tentatively planned for February of 2023. And then I'm leading some other things on creating a pedagogy of sorts for theological educators, where we have scholars from a bunch of different institutions coming and doing that this October as well. So I love to connect with people, and I love for people to kind of sign up for our email list or join us on social media platforms, and then let us know what is it that you want to see, because we do so many different things with art, retreats, writing, books. So I love to hear from folks to know what's most meaningful for you, and what does how can our work meet your needs even better.
That's wonderful. And I know for a fact that your art, your expertise, your words, they have spanned the globe. There are folks around the world that are learning from and growing with you and the work that you're doing. So Angela, thank you for the contribution that you make, for the inspiration that you give so many of us. I know that for our online educators out there and online learners, we are waiting with bated breath about what's coming next. And absolutely go by Queering the American Dream. Read that story, find yourself in in it, connect with it. There's the book right there. You can find that at Angela's website. We'll also post a link at the end of this so that you can know exactly where to get it. Angela, thank you so much for your time. It's truly been a gift to talk to you today.
And with you as well. Thank you so much.
Well, folks, that's our show for today. Thank you so much for joining us here at the Online Educators Forum. We'll see you next time.